Alright, so hello. This is my fifth stream of my efforts to make this module to the Halls of the Stormlord. I'm at the end of a work week. I'm feeling very tired. It's been a pretty intense week, and I'm going to work all weekend at Bit Summit, Kyoto, as an interpreter. So this isn't probably going to be a very long stream, but it's been a while since I worked on this module, and I felt like I should get back to it. So let's talk about what we did last time a little bit here. We finished writing up all of our sort of rules and description of Uglahildr, the Valkyrie, who is going to be one of the principal antagonists in this adventure. And she... well, I actually got to speak to my friend and fellow game designer, Ari, about making some changes to the text and to the characters. So I did make a couple little changes to her since we last saw her. So for example, my friend was really into this idea of the Aurora Elemental, so again, big thanks to Blake for getting that idea off the ground. I kind of spilled over this concept of the Aurora to the young Oracle. So instead of having yellow eyes, now her eyes shift with the colors of the Aurora. And aside from that, didn't make huge changes to her. Yeah, basically the same as before. I also... No, I think we're pretty much where we were before with her. And I need to do this, actually, so I'll go ahead and do this right away. I need to revise the text here, because it was a little bit unclear when I actually had somebody read it over for me. So it says... when a PC dies in battle, not to a trap or poison or falling, etc., they will be revived as an Einherjar by Uglahildr, who will get 3 hold over them, which she can spend to revive them from death or compel them to do something for her. So the point, I believe, here was, does the 3 hold include the first time that she brings them back, or is that after they're brought back the first time? Yeah. So I think maybe best, because we have this thing, when Uglahildr spends a hold to compel a PC to act, maybe best if the first time she spends hold is the time she brings them back, like initially turns them into an Einherjar. Yeah. So Uglahildr spends 1 hold immediately for to bring back the PC, and the conditions below apply as normal. So if the PC wants to resist the initial time that Uglahildr brings them back, then they can still do that, right? They can choose to resist with wisdom. Or, well, this is only if... no, okay, so this is only if she spends a hold to compel them to act. It's not if she brings them back. So, in fact, this is probably not necessary. So what we instead could say is these hold function in addition to the initial resurrection. No, indeed. These hold are in addition to Hilder bringing the PC back initially. I don't know. It's probably not very good writing, but it is a little bit of a clarification there. Okay. Good stuff. And that also means that Ugelhilder is not going to make the PC completely her thrall on the first time she brings them back, which is, you know, a good thing, because it would kind of suck for the character to die and then the GM just to be like, oh, okay, now you are her thrall and you can't even use your character even though the character's been brought back from the dead. That's not very cool. It's not very fun. Right. So next, that clears that up. So let's go ahead and head on over to our friend, the design scratchpad, and start working on Shother Doom. So I took some notes last time on Kazarak. So these notes were to include goal prompts in the module, similar to the questions in Kazarak. So these were right here. Let's take a look. I believe these were these questions. Yeah. And oh, perhaps these questions. Yeah, these questions here. Yeah, okay. So goal prompts. So this is a general thing. It wouldn't be necessarily only for Shother Doom. It would be for the whole module. Write impressions with a suggested encounter. So these would be the kind of short descriptions of what's going on. This kind of stuff. Similar to what I did with the slopes of Shethrazan mountainside scenes, but including within this a encounter suggestion. Yeah. Right. So what else? Unlike Kazarak, include problem-solving locations. So I do have some good ideas for this. We'll go over those later. Use of loot can mark a character as a defiler in the eyes of the dwarves. Yeah, that's a pretty good hook. Unlike Kazarak, include mark as to whether or not location is exposed to the elements. Right, so I should note in every location description whether it is or is not exposed to the elements. And reference the dwarven twists for cool ideas. So I kind of have one of those twists already in mind, but we might go back to them. Cool. So Now then, let's get to it. Let's start writing up Kazarak. Maybe I can start to work on a new file. Shathur Doom. And this is an area. So we'll say the fortress of Shathur Doom. And we don't need this. Locations we're going to keep. Off-road wayfinding we don't need. Get rid of this. Encounters, yes, we'll still have encounters. Weather table, we don't need. This actually needs to be moved into its own page. And okay, I think that's our basics. So let's talk about Shathur Doom. Let's talk about Shathur Doom. So what I say here is, you know, already describing the commerce and so on that was happening with the outside world. But I want to talk a little bit more about what kind of place Shathur Doom was before the catastrophe, because I believe I had a principle about this that I wanted to refer back to. So yeah, make the opposition follow from what Shahrazan was and what the chaos has caused. Think Black Mesa. So, you know, what was the Black Mesa facility before the interdimensional portal opened and everything went to shit? Yeah. So, the dwarves of Shathur Doom swore a century ago to close their gates to the outside world. Yet, within their halls, they constructed a wonder, a gateway to the planes beyond. This should probably be a M dash, not a period. Let's get that. There we go. A gateway to the planes beyond. By way of this gate, no. By traversing this gateway, the dwarves continued their traditions of commerce and exchanged their great craft works for the riches of the multiverse. The legacy of this wide-ranging enterprise still marks the fortress even after catastrophe has reduced it to a shattered and battle-scarred remnant of what it was only a few weeks prior. So thinking about some examples of what sort of things they might have imported into the fortress. So let's think. Maybe so like tropical fragrances and spices lie strewn across its frigid halls, and textiles constructs and colors from far stranger places are everywhere to be found. Now let's talk a little bit about the effects of the fortress. Arnmundur Arnmunder's Sky Fortress. Arnmunder's Sky Fortress was crashed into Shathur Doom with tremendous force, and its halls, which had not seen sunlight in many decades, now stand twisted and gaping and gaping open to the terrible storms that rage around the mountain. In many places, the exteriors of the two fortresses have been fused together by the titanic forces of impact, and structures built to accommodate statures of radically different statures now flow into one another haphazardly. The temporary alliance of dwarf and giant was made with force, and this fact is written into the very stone. No, we should probably just talk about who is in the fortress. That'll probably cover it. So, who do we have? Zirak. I believe there's definitely gonna be dwarven automata. There's definitely gonna be allies of the giants in here. There's gonna be different factions of dwarves fighting one another. Anything else? Air elementals, I think, will be around. Air and storm elementals. Maybe a couple of planar merchants who have been trapped into the fortress. So as far as the giants' allies go, yeah, let's think about this. So ferrets, giant ferrets. No. Giant otters. Yeah, I think this is the one. The giant otter. South American carnivorous mammal, is the longest member of the Mustelidae, or weasel family, a globally successful group of predators reaching up to 1.7 meters, 5.6 feet. Atypical of mustelids, the giant otter is a social species with family groups typically supporting 3 to 8 members. The groups are centered on a dominant breeding pair and are extremely cohesive and cooperative. Although generally peaceful, the species is territorial, and aggression has been observed between groups. The giant otter is diurnal, being active exclusively during daylight hours. It is the noisiest otter species, and distinct vocalizations have been documented that indicate alarm, aggression, and reassurance. Giant otter shows a variety of adaptations suitable to an amphibious lifestyle, including exceptionally dense fur, a wing-like tail, and webbed feet. The species prefers freshwater streams and rivers, which are usually seasonally flooded, and may also take to freshwater lakes and springs. It constructs extensive campsites close to feeding areas, clearing large amounts of vegetation. Giant otter subsists almost exclusively on a diet of fish, particularly characins and catfish, but it may also eat crabs, turtles, snakes, and small caiman. It has no serious natural predators other than humans, although it must compete with other species, including the neotropical otter and caiman species, for food resources. So I wonder if this creature is just too aquatic to really be interesting in this environment. I was thinking maybe some giant otter folk would be working for the giants. I like the vocalizations. The family groups are good too. So the species is amphibious, although primarily terrestrial. It occurs in freshwater rivers and streams, which generally flood seasonally. Other water habitats include freshwater springs and permanent freshwater lakes. Four specific vegetation types occur on one important creek in Suriname. Riverbank high forest, floodable mixed marsh and high swamp forest, floodable low marsh forest, and grass islands and floating meadows within open areas of the creek itself. So basically like shallow water. So as interesting as these guys are, I think they may not be a very good choice because they're so aquatically amphibiously oriented. We're not going to have any water in this situation. So what shall we do? I think maybe some kind of weasel, maybe? Like a big weasel? Weasels, polecats, stoats, ferrets, and minks. Badgers, otters, and wolverines. Badgers could be a thing for sure. Medieval times, badgers were thought to work together to dig holes under mountains. They were said to lie down at the entrance of the hole, holding a stick in their mouths, while other badgers piled dirt on their bellies. Two badgers would then take hold of the stick in the badger's mouth and drag the animal loaded with dirt away, almost in the fashion of a wagon. And that's pretty wild. So I kind of like this idea of badgers. It's a possibility for an ally for the storm giants. Could also see like ferrets, nah, weasels. They're too small. Polecats, stoats. So it could be like large stouts. Wolverines. Otters. Ferrets. We talked about ferrets. Minks. Okay. So what are these guys live in grasslands? Do they go underground at all? What kind of environment do they live in? The stoat does not dig its own burrows, instead using the burrows and nest chambers of the rodents it kills. Oh, yeah! Good. I like it. I like it a lot. Oh! Oh, this is so gruesome! The skins and underfur of rodent prey are used to line the nest chamber. Man, they're just as bad as humans. The nest chamber is sometimes located in seemingly unsuitable places, such as among logs piled against the walls of houses. The stoat also inhabits old and rotting stumps under tree roots and heaps of brushwood, haystacks, bog hummocks, in the cracks of vacant mud buildings, in rock piles, rock clefts, and even magpie nests, which is ultimate irony if you are going and taking over a magpie nest. Males and females typically live apart but close to each other. Each stoat has several dens dispersed within its range. A single den has several galleries, mainly within 30 centimeters of the surface. So, like, yeah, the giants struck a deal with these stoat folk. And they're like, oh yeah, you can have the fortress if you help us get in there and take out the dwarves. And now like the stoats are like using the dwarven remains to like build out like nests within the fortress. Oh, that's so gruesome. Okay, that's fucking awesome. Cool. I like it. I like it. I've got it figured out. They're some nasty folks. Okay, well, I might as well write it down in the computer document here. Google Doc. So let's take a look here. So within Shathar Doom can be found many creatures in either including dwarven residents now at war or subjugated, planar visitors and rogues, and let's come up with a cool name. The Erminar. Maybe there's a cool word for this in another language. Stoughton. Harmon. Herma. Herminar. Hermanar. Hermar. Maybe. And Hermar invaders sent at the behest of Arnmundur to conquer the fortress. The interior is a warren of factional battles and intrigues, and the party must be cautious in how it approaches those within. finally, the areas of Shathur Doom exposed to the elements are, in some cases, even more dangerous than those upon the mountain face. In narrow passageways, the raw elemental forces conjured at the behest of Arnmunder can strike the unwary with sudden and deadly force. Okay, I think that's something. I mean, it's a start. It's a start. And I think I'm going to leave that there. I just want to make a note here. Hermar, add a note. Stoat folk sent intending to use Shathur Doom as their warren and sent as invaders who can fit the tunnels of the fortress by the giants. Okay, well, that's something. That's something. So, for those of you who watched, thanks for checking out the stream. I will be back maybe sometime next week with a continuation of this effort to construct this terrible and chaotic place, the Fortress of Shathur Doom, and to move towards getting a playtest ready version of this module together. Really looking forward to having something complete so I can actually look at running it and seeing how it goes. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon.